Hello Stampers, welcome to Fairless Stamp and Flair. Today I have a fun technique that at least is fun for me. I like to get a little messy. If you're not into messy, maybe you won't like it, but it's not bad. Um, we're gonna make a bubble background, and what better theme to have for bubbles than something with a water theme, right? So we're gonna use Peaceful Pier to make our card, and the card will be on my Fairless Stamp and Flair blog tomorrow at fairlessstampandflair.com. Um, and this video will be there also. So let's go ahead and flip my camera down and get started. All right, let's have some fun. Let me show you the card first. Like I said, it will be on my blog post tomorrow. This is the Peaceful Pier stamp set from the annual catalog. I bought this late in the life of the catalog. The catalog is good through the end of April or first couple of days of May, I think. But if you haven't figured out by now, I love all things water. I live on a lake, so this just seemed like a great stamp set, but I didn't get around to purchasing it right away. So I'm trying to use it. And I think this little fisherman is just the cutest little thing. But I thought he caught a minnow. Maybe that's his bait. I don't know. So I thought he needed a couple of the bigger fish to see if he could catch those. But what I'm going to show you today, and I'm going to try to bring this in close so you can see it, is the background where the fish are. Now, it's a bubble background, and I'm going to show you a full sheet of it. This is what I cut it out of. Every one of these you make will look different, but I wanted to show you a couple different ones. This one is made with just regular basic white cardstock, okay? I don't even think I used thick. I might have. I don't remember for sure. Today I have what feels like thick, but sometimes it's hard to tell. Anyway, basic white cardstock. And you can also use watercolor paper. And I just wanted to show you the difference. The tutorial I watched was from Split Coast Stampers from many, many years ago. And they used watercolor paper. But as you can see, the watercolor paper absorbs and spreads the color more, which is what watercolor paper is supposed to do. And I didn't think that the bubbles were as distinct as I saw on basic white. So I'm going to use basic white because I like this better, how it looks. We do have to be careful that we don't get it too wet because it will really want to curl up on you. But to make this background, we take a mixture of water. I found that kind of a flatter, more open bowl as opposed to tall and skinny worked better because I'm going to lay this into the bubbles to get my pattern. And I've got it about half full. And then we need to add a little bit of detergent, just swirl some around. I'm just using plain old Dawn dish soap. And we're just going to swirl a little bit in there. Doesn't need a boatload, we just need enough to make bubbles. And then we need a re-inker, and I am using Summer Splash. This is one of the 24, 26 in colors. We'll be retiring at the end of the catalog. It's a beautiful bluish green. And with this technique, you need to make sure you get enough in it. So I'm going to just add some, and I'm going to give you a hint. Looks like I added a lot. I probably have 15, 20 drops in there. Kind of stir it. If it gets too dark, you can always add more water. If it's not enough, you can always add more. So you're going to want to play around with it a little bit. But the way, before you start dipping your cardstock in it, what I found is if I blew some bubbles and the bubbles had color in them, then I would get color onto my cardstock. If you don't have enough, the bubbles will just basically be clear or kind of iridescent, and then the color, there's not enough color to get it on your cardstock. So I'm going to blow some bubbles. I'll try not to get my head under the camera. And I don't know how well you can see this because you're obviously looking through it, but these bubbles are pretty clear. Oh, the other hint, paper towel. Paper towel is your friend. In fact, I should probably put my little bowl on here. I'm going to do my best not to spill this all over my desk, but I'm going to add a little bit more re-inker and then test again to see if I get more color in the bubbles. It's a little bit of trial and error, but like I said, it's easier to add more than to take away, although taking away you can just simply add more water. So let me try again. Okay, when I blow it, I can see color. I'm going to add just a little bit more. You're probably thinking, oh, this takes a lot of re-inker. It's not really bad. And how long doesn't a re-inker last you anyway? Years, right? Good way to use it to have some fun. Now, one thing, as I stir this, I'm going to try to bring this up closer without spilling. Can you see? Some of my bubbles are getting a little bit foamy. And if you get foam, you're not going to get much bubble on your card because they're too close together. So I took a spatula and just kind of, if I bring this up, you can now see I do have color in these bubbles, but I try to scoop off the most of the foam as I can. It's also a good way to see if you've got some color. So let's just get as much of this off as we can, because you don't really want to dip your cardstock in foam. Now, I did see in the video I watched on Split Coast, they also would take their bubbles and then lay them on the cardstock. I found that got my cardstock really, really wet to do that. And maybe that's why they used watercolor paper. It could be because obviously watercolor paper handles water. It's made to do that, right? So I'm just going to get as much of this foam off as I can. And now we're going to blow some bubbles, and I think we've got enough color in there. So I'm going to get my paper handy, and as I blow, I'm going to dip this in. And let it sit there for just a minute. You can already see I've got some. Actually, I've got a smear kind of hair on here. So let me blow this bubble out. This side looks cleaner. Let's try this side. Now this is going to make it wetter, of course, because now I got water on both sides and there's no bubbles. And can you see this bubble background starting to form? You can do this as many or as few times as you want. Until you get the amount of bubbles you want, okay? If you let them sit, if they're on here, if you let it sit for just a bit, you will get a better bubble outline there. You can just touch that with your straw to pop it. Oh, that made a really big bubble. Okay, good deal. I'm gonna do, it's really pretty wet over here because I dipped it on this side. So I'm gonna do it again on this side. We'll make some taller bubbles. And I like to let them set just a bit before I pop them. Because you can see that makes stronger bubble lines. So let's try a little bit again over here. This is just take your time. And if this is getting too foamy, then we just lift some off. I'm going to show you, I have a piece of watercolor paper. Let's lift some off here and just kind of put this on. Sometimes it's a little hard to get it off the spatula, but we'll let that set and just see what happens, okay? So let's make some more bubbles. This is the fun part, blowing bubbles. And you can just keep blowing and dipping at the same time. That's fine too, whatever works best for you. I'm just trying to show you in between. Normally I would just blow and then keep blowing and dipping. I'm getting a little bit of foam now, but this has actually come along pretty well. So, and it is damp, all right? So that's how you blow bubbles. Just practice, take a couple of the tips, like it's really time to clean off the foam because you want the bubbles to be bubbles, not foamy bubbles, all right? So you will want to set this aside to dry under something flat that's weighted down. A book works good. If you don't want to put a piece of paper over it so you don't get ink on your book, I usually like to just take a stamp set pad. As long as we got this kind in the case, you can use this because it's got the cover on it. And then I take a heavy punch of some sort and just set it on there. And it will take a bit to dry. You can use a heat tool to speed it up, but I think it works better if you just let it dry naturally. So that's what I'm going to do with that one. I am going to move this carefully back to my counter. And I'm going to grab a clean piece of paper here. And we're going to go ahead and make the card. By magic of television, I have pre-made bubbles and my pieces. So hopefully this should not take us too long, but I'll just show you these bubbles. And again, no two will look alike. These probably have a little more, I need to hold it still so the camera can focus. These have a little more blue in them, I think, than the two in the card. The two in the card have more white. Everyone's going to look different. That's the fun of blowing bubbles. So let's just go ahead and put this together. I have Summer Splash. This is the background I decided to use, and it is called Soft Waves, I think. Yeah, Soft Waves. This is the embossing folder. And we're just going to go ahead and put this on the front. Where's my, I didn't get all my assembly stuff out here. Fortunately, it's not too far away. When you're putting on an embossed layer, it does work best if you use liquid adhesive because it will get down into the cracks and crevices, I would say, but really it'll get up on the raised surfaces. And it just seems to work a little bit better. I've used, as I lovingly call it, snail, with Stamp and Seal for many years. And that works as well. So to assemble this, I'm going to start with the little circle. I have my little guy already cut out and my little fish made. So everything's made. We're just going to assemble so you can see how I put it together. Our little fisherman was die cut with a stamp or a die called Nesta's Essentials dies. These are great dies. They have a variety of shapes in different sizes. So I'm just using the rectangle. The layout I have for my card actually is a card template that's in the current catalog. So I've tried to figure out where I wanted these based on that template. And I ended up doing it like this. So this corner is showing of the little guy. This one's covered, which means I have to assemble them in that order. So it helps to lay them down first just to kind of figure out where you need them. Like I don't want to get it too high and then I can't see it. So I figure out where he is and then I can slip it under there. Make sure I have room for my fish. And then the next piece is my little guy here that I put on with Stampin' Dimensionals. If you watch me at all, you know I am a dimensional-aholic. I admit it. I like layers that are raised up. I just think it gives a lot of extra, I don't know, it just is more appealing to the eye than if everything is flat, my opinion. So my little fisherman and my fish were all colored with Stampin' Blends. There is a tutorial that will be on my post tomorrow, and it gives you all the colors that I used. To make the grass, I could show you, I did tear a little Post-it note and lay it down, covered the sky, and then I got a sharper line for my grass. Probably not that necessary. I also masked my little guy before I put the final colors on with a blending brush. I started out, I used very light amount first. This is Pool Party, not Summer Splash, it's Pool Party. I wanted it a little bit lighter. I did put it down a little bit first and a little bit of the green. You have to be careful you don't get too much on before you stamp him, because otherwise he's going to have blue skin. And if you color down with darker colors, it's okay, but the skin was not good. So, all right, I'm going to put this one on with dimensionals too, but I have to pay attention that I don't get a dimensional up here. Otherwise I'll have 3 layers. So I want to hold my fingers there and I'm going to put some dimensionals everywhere else, but that one little corner. And that way I can just add just a little bit of adhesive down here in this corner I'm going to cover up. And that'll stick down there. I remember where it was. Luckily it's bubbles and it doesn't matter which way it goes. This is why I'm putting the fish on after. And I'll hold that just for a second to keep the liquid glue down. All right, so now I've got my fish. And the way I adhered these, I got a little bit different, I got opposite colors today. On my card, I have a blue greeny fish over here, and this is a yellow Calypso corally one over here, and I just switched them up. I adhered his tail directly and raised his head. That's probably how he would be coming out of the water, I figured. So, not critical, just a little detail so you understand what I did. And we're just going to stick him right here, hold that tail down for a minute. And then I did the same thing on this fish. The smaller fish, I adhered his tail directly. So we're going to put a little bit there. And we'll put a dimensional over here under his head. Oh, probably should have used a small one, but it fits. Just. And I tucked him just a bit underneath that corner as well. That kept him centered in the bubble. Now, when I made my bubbles, you probably saw, I used the size of a card front, or 5 1/4 by 4, I think, is what I used, because that gave me scraps after I punched these out. All right, let's back up. I'll be honest, I was originally going to make the whole background bubbles instead of the white piece, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't doing it for me. So then I saw that template in the catalog and thought, oh, I like this little template. It's a little bit more interesting. So I need some skinnier dimensionals here. So I decided to use that. And I want to make sure I get this on the one layer on this side. And because this is hanging off a piece that's already raised, I need 2 layers on this side. And I'm just using the edges of my tiny mini dimensionals. If I had mini dimensionals left on there, I'd use those, but I am not one to let things edges go to waste. I kind of like the edges actually. So I don't know if you can see that there's 2 layers here and 1 here, and that'll keep it flat when I lay it on the card. Oh, but I got to put it the right way. Okay, now I was going to leave it like that. It looked a little blah, I thought. So never one to scrimp on bling. I made a bow from this mesh metallic ribbon. This stuff is the easiest stuff to tie. Looks like it could be hard, but it is not. So thin and lightweight. So I just adhered that with a glue dot and put it up here between the fish and the fisherman. And then I took some frosted iridescent dots and I used the clear ones. I thought they kind of looked like little bubbles of water. You can see those. So I added those to my card. These might be retired. I don't know. I have so many embellishments. I'm admittedly a dimensional-aholic. I'm an embellishment and ribbon-aholic too. I have way more than I need. So there, that is our completed card. Pretty much like the one that will be on the blog tomorrow. The only difference is the color of the fish and the bubbles look a little bit different, but not so much as you'd notice unless they're right by side. And the inside, I used a scrap left over and just put a strip of the bubbles across the bottom and adhered a couple more fish. I'm leaving it sentiment free because you don't really need a sentiment with just because, do you? I don't think so. It's just because. So I can add one later. It's a little crooked. There we go. I'm gonna straighten it out. I'm gonna add one later, and if I need one, or I'll just write a note. But now I need to find a favorite fisherman to send it to. I use this beautiful bouquet card DSP. It's got bubbles. I didn't have any in these colors, but his chair was Calypso Coral. So, and I had Calypso Coral in the fish, so I just used the Calypso Coral to tie that to my card. And I'm kind of starting to do a little bit more of that where I make my flap sort of contrast with my card. I've seen other demonstrators do that. Brandy Cox does that at the Creative 8 retreats, if you ever participate in that. And I like it. So I learn things every day too from other people like Brandy. So let me flip my camera back. And all right. That's it. We blew some bubbles. Brings you back to your childhood. Remember blowing those bubbles in that little jar? You dip your little bubble stick in there and then you'd run around the yard blowing them. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So it brings back happy memories. So I hope you give it a try. I hope you like it. Just remember, none of them are going to turn out the same. That's okay. And you can add as much or as little color as you want. Just don't get your paper too wet. Let me see how dry it is. Yeah, it's still wet in the center here. I can hold this up where most of the blue is. It is still wet. And it is, I did find it is really good to let it dry under something that's pressing it flat, because otherwise it will want to curl. So let's wrap this up. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little something new, or maybe I reminded you of something you've done before and you'll go try it again. Have a great day. I'd love it if you gave me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Um, until next week, when we have something else, have a blessed week and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.